podcast from Drew and Mike is, I think it's really cool, and that is what I wanted to say.
Two and a mic. Two, 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 two and a mic. Two, 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 two and a mic. I'll keep the intro short, as you already know what Vlad and I are up to. Today we go into yet another point of our Create an Island political system saga. Well, eventually. At first, we cover the work-life balance issue by dropping in a few questions on time. Who owns it, and why so many people nowadays want to savor time above money. Talking about my creation of a benevolence foundation to look after my island's ecosystem sandwiches a discussion on democracies and how maintaining a democratic system has perhaps become fanaticism over sense. Thanks, Vlad, for your time, and I hope you all enjoy the chat.
Hello, how are you again?
I'm doing great. What about you? How are you doing?
Not bad at all. If you remember, a long time ago, we also had the third musketeer who took part in our startups and whiskey sessions. Though we're going to have to change the name a little bit because for topic reasons, when he is back with us, we'll have a different name. But his lordship is currently recovering in his chateau. But he wanted me to say hi to you, so hopefully he'll hear this and will realize how highly we consider him, but how even more highly we consider the patience of his servants.
I hope so.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what's new, Vlad? Are you enjoying the spring?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Like, now the days are getting longer and the sun is shining, so we can't complain.
Yeah. But I mean, your days are always long, aren't they? Because
True, because I have a lot of work to do, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
How do you do it, man? How do you work so many hours? Because look, you and I both know very well. We've done the theory. We've talked about it. Work-life balance, quality of life. The importance of sort of social interaction and so on. How can you keep working 12, 13, 14-hour days? It's madness.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm working that long. The first thing, this work-life balance is like if I only have one life, so I don't know why should I split it between like there is work and there's this life. So when I'm working, I'm also living. So
Are you?
yeah,
Okay.
sure. The only thing is that I do my breaks when I need it, and I just follow my own rhythm. And if I want, from time to time, I'm working quite long. But for example, today, I need to wake up, and I was like, no, actually, I want to sleep a bit more. So I was, I don't know, after 10 here in the office, and that's totally fine. I'm just not following, like a 9 to 5 schedule that it's actually make not sense at all. So it came, well, the history with the industrialization of car fabrics and so on, that it was more efficient to work from 9 to 5, but in order to produce more cars, not in order to be more efficient or productive people. So I'm just following my own rhythm and it works.
Look, I'm like you in many ways in that, in my case, I'm self-employed. So therefore I have I have a vested interest in working because if I work, I get paid. If I don't work, I don't get paid. But I've got lots of little sort of extra projects around my work, which I do, and I'm not paid for, the podcasts being one of them. But yeah, so the other day I was looking at a job interview and I got, not a job interview, a job ad. And I got four words into the job ad before I sort of closed down the page. And it was basically, this is a full-time job. And then I was like, stop. Okay, can't do it. I just found the term full time off-putting. Yeah, and I put it down to, I don't know why, because I've never had this thought before. I mean, now I work more than full time,
Yeah.
with all the shit that I do. Um, but I thought about it. Yeah, no company deserves so much of my time. If it's, and this is a luxurious position to be in, obviously, because a lot of people can't choose. Um, but I mean, don't you think that companies, yeah, they have to be, or we have to have a slightly different appreciation of time?
I think it's beautiful that we can decide, because in your case, for sure, a company deserves it, and it's your own one. I mean, you are working for yourself. You have your own clients. You have your own customers. So at the end, you have a company, and you are working more than full time. It's just a decision if you want to work for another company or for your own one, and that's why it's so beautiful that we have the choice if we want to create a company, if we want to do something small but at the same time nice, or if you want just to have the flexibility and the, let's say, the peace that you can go to work for a company, you get your money, and that's it.
Hmm. But I mean, have you, because you've employed lots of people,
Yeah.
even though it's not necessarily your primary function as a sort of human resources and cultural development manager, as it were. But um, when you've discussed time with people, generally speaking, what kind of sort of approach does the conversation take? As in, are people happy to give more time, or do you feel you have to negotiate a bit there?
Actually, that's not even a topic. It's like at least in my company right now, at my company right now, we, yeah, people, okay, they are paid for a 40 hours a week, and but nobody's controlling it. And I can imagine there are people that work a bit more. There are people that I would say that we have people that work a bit less, but they are flexible and so on. And now, for example, it's every day is more common that we have people working remotely. So it's not really that you are controlling the time that people are working.
Yeah, no, okay. That was just a thought that occurred to me.
Yeah,
It's
and
just,
this,
yeah.
you have this like a kind of I don't know, from time to time I listen it from other colleagues in a very despective way, like this millennial movement, like people that are under 30 and are really concerned about work-life balance, and then they really make an issue out of it. Like they let very clear, hey, I would love to work for your company, but really I'm not gonna do over hours, I'm not gonna work during the weekends, I'm not gonna do this and that, and they want to let that very clear.
Mm,
And that's cool. I mean, expectation management is always a beautiful thing.
mm. But I mean, it's also obviously the case that people like that are also happy to accept less money. So for them, money's not the primary issue. It's enjoying their lives as much as they possibly can. And for that, they need time more than money, perhaps.
True. It's depending the ambitions you have in life. What do you want to achieve? If you want to retire, when and how and in which conditions. If you are now planning like I don't know. The thing in my case, for example, I'm not that old, so I still have a lot of energy, and I see that if I invest a lot of time in my, let's say, in my career, then I also have the money and the possibility to do other stuff. And one of them would be to retire when all these work-life balance freaks are still working. Maybe I'm already retired and having a beautiful life, and not being worried because the things that I get after retirement is just few hundred euros and so on. And yeah, so I respect them, and that's cool. I mean, it's also cool for me because there's a space for me to develop my career in even an easiest way. So that's cool. I mean, if they enjoy the time, and that's nice. That's the beautiful thing about more or less a free world. You know, if they
Mm,
are not interested in buying properties, in investing in shares in stock market and so on, that's fine. That's cool, and we need also that people. But in my case, I really would love to I don't know, to have a, at least in my eyes, best life quality. And in the world that we are living, normally you need money in order to achieve a better quality of life.
Mm. We do tend to talk about democracy as being a very tolerant society. It's
Yeah,
tolerant when people do what we say.
yeah, that's
If not, we'll bomb the hell out of them.
yeah, that's totally contradiction when you see everything. Well, we could talk for hours about that topic, but you see how wars. I mean, I know there are other interests behind all the wars we have faced in the past 3 4 decades, but they were all normally started by a democracy, like the big ones, and in the name of democracy. So that it's it would be an evidence about how radical democracies actually are. And I know there are other interests, and they analyze there should not be that easy. But yeah, it's like if you see what is Le Pen doing in France, she's running for president now, I guess, for the second time, right? At least the second time that
Mhm.
she achieved this to go into the second round.
Yeah.
But it means she's going the democratic way. And what would happen if a far right a person would be in the yeah, like in office, like being the leader? Then all Democrats would think, hey, it's fine to kill that guy because this is good for the people, you know. And then I'm going to be, you know, and then it's going to be a museum that, yeah, I was one of the guys who tried to kill the president, but I was discovered, so they killed me. And then yeah, we make like okay, let's say put it into school books and so on, and then we start like creating a novel out of it.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's spot on for me when you say, you know, radical democracy, and yeah, I mean, it's an unpopular opinion, Vlad. We have to accept it. But generally speaking, we grow up within the democracies in which we exist, and we're told we have to protect our democracy with everything we can. But to be honest, it's quite clear. I think the biggest threat to democracy is from within, and this is why they want to fight to keep such a strong control of democracy.
Yeah, you know, if we talk about biology or even thermodynamics, is like if you see a system, the main goal, the main purpose of the system is its own existence, right?
Mm.
So
Survival, yeah.
survival, right? That you find a way to survive, to exist, and so on. So sure, but when you say like we grew up in a society where the main goal or the main reason would be to defend democracy, that would be exactly the same in another system. It's not because the system is the best, it's because it's the system that we have, and we would like to preserve it, because there are also some interests that are playing a bigger role within the system that want to you could say the same thing if you were living in North Korea. Imagine you would be, yeah, Zach and Vladi. We grew up in North Korea, and for some reason we got the opportunity to record a podcast for sure only for the North Korean people. Then you would say exactly the same sentence, but just talking about North Korea. So this is not a democracy thing. We are talking here about system theory, right? If Yep.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say you're right, but democracy would put itself above all of these other systems because it considers itself to be superior.
Same
As in,
thing in North Korea.
yeah, of course. But this is the thing, though. But democracy sees itself as being absolutely the best system of all the systems that we currently know for
Ah,
human organization. So, you know,
that's tough.
yeah, okay. But I'm just saying, as in, you know, I think a politician within a democratic system will find it very difficult to sit down and debate, I think, intellectually speaking, the relevance of democracy. And they'll turn around and say, yeah, but we've got tolerance, we've got the majority rule, we've got certain levels of understanding, and all of the democratic principles that we talked about earlier, representation, participation, so on. Of course, I love a lot of these values, but they would refuse to acknowledge the possibility that there are other systems in place that might also represent those particular elements. But then they also forget the fact that they are constantly fighting for other situations which democracy doesn't provide for. Democracy doesn't provide for people to live free of discrimination. Democracy, as you've also said previously, democracy doesn't guarantee the dignity of the human individual. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't guarantee the quality of life for the poor. As in, there are some very important factors within human society in the Western democratic countries, which democracy does not specifically provide for. But this is obviously overlooked.
Yeah, totally with you. And that's the thing that we come back again to our very first session, when I ask you, okay, but what is democracy? And it's going to be very hard to find someone who can tell you, okay, this is my understanding about democracy. Because when we talk about democracy, normally we are talking about things that are not even close related to it, right? Because when we say no democracy, then you start talking about I don't know, like rights for minorities, or no anti-discriminations law, and so on. And that has nothing to do with democracy. That's a thing that you could have also within another system, right?
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, the example that I always like to give, where we were discussing here in Germany, if homosexual people should be able to get married in equal conditions to heterosexual ones, right? And that was a huge debate here in the Bundestag. And that was one of these kind of votation that you can see who vote for what, right? Yeah. And Angela Merkel, for example, she voted negative, that she was against to have equal conditions for homosexual and heterosexual couples in terms of marriage, right? And wouldn't you say that she's not democratic? For me, she was the biggest and most representative face of the democracy during the 21st century till now.
Mm. But was she secretly happy that the vote went through, or do you think that actually represented her view?
I mean, if she was secretly happy or not, I don't know. But as you can see, you have also in democratic countries, and Germany is considered a well-established democracy. It's also possible that you have people that are in office that are really considered like very democratic, and they can think that, okay, but it's better not to put the same rights for homosexual people. And that was Merkel. That was the case also for a huge part of the CDU. Mm-hmm. And the CDU is the party that has been governing in Germany for the longest period of time after the Second World War. Not uninterrupted, but for the years, like adding it.
Yeah. The greatest number of total years in government. Yeah. And absolutely. And this comes down to the basic elements of their party and their belief structure, isn't it? They're Christian Democrats, they're conservatives, and so therefore they tend to follow what is considered to be a traditional line of human interaction. And it's not a big surprise, let's just say, that it was that way. I'm not sure though, with regards to Merkel, whether or not this was a question that she knew it would pass, and so she voted that way to keep the sort of right elements of her party under control or not. I mean, she's a super intelligent person. I wouldn't put it past her to have taken that particular tactical approach. But again, I don't know. I've never ever heard Mrs. Merkel's speeches on the topic, so I can't. I don't want to make any judgments on that. But interesting though. Yeah.
It's not about making judgment. It's about a fact that she voted that way.
Hmm.
And if we start like trying to interpreting why she did that or not, that's gonna be just like making assumptions. But
Absolutely.
it was the way she voted, and that was nice. And she is for me one of the, if I think about democracy, and you ask me, hey, give me a good example of a politician that is working good within a democracy, even that wouldn't be maybe the party I would vote for. I think Merkel was an incredible woman, an incredible politician. And in this regard of if I would always d'accord with her or not, but at the end she could be also being against equal conditions for gay people.
Hmm.
So coming back to the topic, democracy is a method of how to organize a society in terms of political decision making processes.
Hmm.
No more, no less.
Yeah.
If we start talking about the other stuff, then it's going to be a bit complex. But what we are here defending, what we are here really like, okay, we need to preserve, is the order that we create in the world after the Second World War. And if it's democracy, or if it's a, I don't know, sarkicracy, or whatever you want,
Mhm.
it's a, it doesn't matter. It's about what I was talking before about system theory, that we have a system that it's working, and it's working good for European countries, for Western European countries. It's working good for the whole so-called West world. And we have an interest to preserve it because it's good for European societies. It's good for Western societies. And if we can put something like democracy, like sounds great, like like people think, and then we go to, I don't know, to very poor areas in, I don't know, in Sierra Leone or in Colombia and so on, and people are like, okay, we're starving, we have nothing to eat, we are blah, blah, and then we come, we have an idea, you need democracy. It's like, come on, you know, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think we have to come back to the different kinds of topics that you've mentioned here as well. I've made a note of some topics that we will come back to refer to because they do require greater analysis. And you refer there. You didn't say anything specifically, but you said if we talk about these other topics, it will be far more
Yeah.
complicated. We'll delve into those other topics at a future point because I think it's important.
It would be
Yeah,
great.
okay. Yeah. So coming back to our sort of the saga, that is our island nations. And again, because in the interests of catching up or keeping a sort of level view of your suggestions and my suggestions, so we can do one more from mine. And we'll just, as of the next time that we get together, then we'll go back to one of
To
yours.
mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my point number 7 is, if
Go.
you're ready,
Yeah.
the island shall have a benevolence foundation that oversees the maintenance of the ecosystems that are contained within and surround the island.
Hmm. Okay. My first question would be, what do you mean with benevolence foundation? Are we talking here about charity, or it's just the intention is good, or what exactly is a benevolence foundation?
Okay. All right. So in this case, it will be an administrative instrument. It would form a part of the government or the governance of the island and the area. Benevolence, in this case, it must work towards what is best, yeah, for the improvement, the well-being of the island and the area within it and the ecosystems. And I say ecosystems rather than society and community because ecosystems does not inherently mean what is best for humans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is why there must be a clear distinction between that and community and ecosystem.
Okay, I get it. But I'm still a bit impressed about the wording that you are using for it, because okay, foundation, why not an office or yeah, like a minister for, I don't know, ecosystem sustainability or something.
Hmm.
Like, why are you? Maybe it's just a coincidence, but
Mm.
maybe not, and that's what I would love to know. So
Okay.
why foundation and why benevolence and why not just a ministry or something?
Yeah, because I don't want it to be connected to a political ideology. I do not want it to be connected to a temporary political trend or voting fashion. Um, it has to be a foundation based upon very specific scientific theories or, in many cases, scientific data overseen by actual scientists. And so therefore,
Okay.
that's why it will be a benevolence foundation. So it operates with administrative authority without actually being a part of the administrative superstructure that is the government of the island.
But I would hope that you expect the same for the other topics. It's like, for example, if we talk about the penal system or the let's say the Ministry of Justice or something like this. I hope they also are independent, that they work based on scientific or based on data, that they are not like changing the constitution every time that you elect a new president, that they are working for the society or for the community. So I don't know. I'm just
It's a
impressed
different
about.
system. It's no, it's I actually I no, I'm not. I'm specifying that the other structures will not be represented in the same way because people have voices. Yeah. How you govern your penal system is a political distinction. Your legal system is established from your political social beliefs. Again, established by human community, society, maybe even religion, whatever. Yeah,
Mm,
as in this is the historical development, the legacy element of how we manage ourselves. Ecosystems don't have that voice. And your average human being, somebody like me, yeah, I can't go into a forest and immediately understand what's wrong. Whereas people who have studied, I suppose depending on which kind of ecosystem we're talking about, whether it's marine ecosystem, whether it's some other kind of agricultural ecosystem, but people who have studied the well-being of these different areas will automatically be able to detect whether there are significant changes underway, whether there is some kind of pollution which has somehow seeped in from sort of human manufacturing or whatever.
mm,
Um, you know, this is why this particular kind of body is a foundation. It operates outside of the
mm.
political sphere because ecosystems don't have a voice.
I get it. It's a very interesting idea and funny wise. Well, I don't know if it's funny, but that's exactly what I'm proposing for the whole system, and that's why I don't want everybody just because they were born here to give them the right to vote. Because I know not everybody, as the same way you are explaining that not everyone is able or is capable of understand the impact of certain actions on the ecosystem. I think that's exactly the same thing with all the other topics. I mean, at the end, we are also an ecosystem, right? It's not like there is a differentiation between a nature and humans. Like we are all part of this nature of all this environment of all this
Mhm.
ecosystem. So yeah, totally with you. The only thing is that I would apply exactly the same principle to all other fields of the system, to all other topics, because I think that's the only way. It's when we do well informed and data based decisions in this regard to the topic. So yeah, totally with you. And maybe just one comment, because
Mhm.
I think that's interesting that you mentioned that for example, animals they have no voices compared to humans. Unfortunately, in our world, there are some animals that let's say they are better represented compared to other humans. So that's
That's true.
very very sad, and that's something that I think, well, how crazy we are as society, as a world society. But you will find there are a lot of good groups, society, like foundations, that they are taking care of animals in some countries, and I love them. That's I mean, we should like reproduce them so we have more. But on the other hand, you also have like groups of people that nobody's taking care of them, and they
Mm.
don't even have a voice. Most of them, don't even know that they exist.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. But the other point that you raised, I'm not sure I agree with you, Vlad. We're going to have to disagree on this. Because
Again,
if you, yeah, it's
joking.
terrible, isn't it? If because for me, if you isolate each and every individual element of government, then you don't have a government. As in, if you say that, for example, you have to take this benevolence foundation approach to justice, to social systems, to education, to health, and so on, um, at what point do you bring them together then? How do you prioritize one above the other? They have to exist within a unified government structure. Um, and another reason why I say this is because I remember when I was working within the Armenian community, there was a guy, extremely intelligent guy. But when he was in charge of the youth, should we say, of youth organizations, sport, and so on, he would say the most important thing is youth development. Yeah, because this is the future of the
Mm,
community. But then when a couple of years later his role changed and he was talking about, for example, recognition of the Armenian genocide, he said the most important job we have to do is ensuring that the Armenian genocide is recognized by international bodies, by different countries, and so on. I mean, both of these particular topics are close to my heart, and I agree with the importance of both of them. My point, however, was that he decided the part which was most important at the time was based not on the topic, but on the role that he had, if you see what I mean.
yeah, I see what you mean, but I think we are talking about two different things, because I'm not talking about isolating anyone. So coming back to your first comment,
Please. Yeah.
I'm not talking about excluding people. I'm talking about excluding maybe people that could represent danger for the things we are talking about. So it's like when I'm hiring for a certain position, I extend a public invitation for everybody that really can fill all the minimum requirements. If they want to join my company, if they want to come and do crazy stuff here, they are all invited, right? The only difference is that in a company, I don't have the same amount of money that I would have a state, and I wouldn't be able to pay everyone who fulfill other requirements. When we are talking about a political system, I'm sending a public invitation to everybody who really wants to participate. They can join, and I'm just stopping the thing that people go and vote for, and they don't even know what they are voting for.
Yeah, but we're talking about slightly different things here because what you're saying is correct, and we talked about for qualifying people for the right to vote, and I can understand the point that you make. But you also said before that you wanted to apply the benevolence foundation principle, that it exists outside or as an individual element, separate to the political establishment. But you wanted to have that same kind of system for every single other ministry. And I said that that's what wouldn't work, because government has to be a collective body, because sometimes you prioritize education, other times you prioritize
Yeah,
technology, other times you prioritize foreign policy. And the needs of society can be vocalized by society. And this is why I introduced a certain distinction. And yeah, maybe my example wasn't great earlier, but I just wanted to say that by having as one element which is clearly distinct, meant that all of the other elements could be talked about, could be discussed on an objective level, rather than it being subjective. An individual would decide what is more important based upon the job that they have, and so on.
Yeah, yeah, I understand what you mean. I was just maybe I didn't get exactly what you were meaning with benevolence, but I understand it now better. And yeah, so the point for me is valid. I will think that yeah, no, I like that you really like take this issue and make like a separate point out of it, and yeah, I the only thing that I can imagine is that again, there's no any single science where you only have one opinion.
Hmm.
So I can imagine even that you have a I don't know a group of the best scientifics or the best biologists from the island. From time to time, they are gonna they are gonna have some difference there, and then it's not gonna be that easy as thinking that if they know what to do, they are gonna have a similar opinion, and that's a I can imagine that's a nothing new for you,
Hmm.
but maybe my next controversial comment is about okay, from time to time in order to develop you are creating a negative impact on the ecosystem, and actually depending on how radical we want to look at it, the only way not to have a negative impact on the ecosystem is stop developing ourselves as humans, as society, and so on, in terms of technology, in terms of that if we are I don't know, using more technology, then we need more resources. So then we go to, I don't know, to a coal or a oil and so on. And for sure, when we start getting coal or oil, that for sure has a negative impact on the ecosystem. But it means a lot of development from the for the people within the island. So that would be, I guess, a tough question because I don't know if you don't want to have any negative impact, then we should maybe stop taking a shower every day, and we should stop like eating the same amount of food we are used to eat right now. We should stop like buying clothes in the crazy way we are doing it right now, and that would be a good thing. But there are many things that if if I listen to your idea, it's like in your island, there's not going to be a possibility to live the way we're used to live right now, for example, in Germany.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. No, no, I think there's no way to, if that was the case, then why would we have an island? Why would we go and live on an island if we were to accept the way that we live in this country as being optimum?
No, no, it's just a
Yeah,
comment.
yeah. Well, fair enough. Yeah, it's interesting. The point that you make. What came to mind as you were talking was that, yeah, and this would be perhaps slightly revisionist in many ways. But throughout history, we've, different countries, different parts of the world have developed at different times. So, while, for example, in the UK, people were living in wooden huts, you had, Roman buildings made of brick and marble, sort of falling to ruin after hundreds of years.
Mhm.
But you also had palaces in the Middle East and in China. As in different kinds of cultures in Egypt as well. Of course, you had the pyramids. As in different cultures have jumped ahead mathematically, scientifically at different points. It's only recently, in the last 500-600 years, perhaps, that you could say the West has maybe jumped ahead, technologically speaking. My point is that throughout history, humanity has decided not to share its scientific developments. And this has meant that a lot of these discoveries have had to be made on an individual basis. They've all had to go through the same system, whereas we could have done it more easily. And I mean, there's no way we can go back and change history. It is the way that it is.
Hmm.
but we can definitely change the present and the future. And that means cooperating. It means sharing technology. It means finding a clearer path towards the end goal without having to go through all of the hard grafting in the intervening period. And still, there doesn't seem to be any will from any side when it comes to the sharing of technology. And this, I think, is a shame, because this is what impacts directly on ecosystem.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Still. Yeah. Okay. All right. Vlad, I know we have distinct time limits today. And so therefore we have to respect those time limits, because that is the situation in which we exist. Thank you very much for your analysis. It's always good to hear. I like the fact that we can put across sometimes an alternative view, even if very often a lot of what we discuss is socially acceptable. But there are some questions that need to be posed. And I think today we've posed a couple. So thank you very much for doing that.
No, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have these kinds of conversation with you, and I'm very much looking forward to the next one.
Two and a mic.